record. Yes. All right, then we get started. Welcome to this sixth session in our GitHub Roadshow. I'm Matthias from Solidify, and I'm here today with Magnus Timner, who will introduce himself a bit later to talk about Azure DevOps and GitHub integration. So this meeting is recorded, so if you have any issues with that, then just feel free to drop off. All right, next slide, Magnus.
Yeah.
So a lot of familiar faces so far, but for those of you who haven't joined the roadshow before, this is a virtual roadshow. Usually we would have done this in physical meetups, but now we are doing it virtual, and we're running this series as nice awareness sessions to look at different topics in GitHub. And we're doing this bi-weekly, and again, this is the sixth time. Try to keep it to about an hour, so it's fit nicely into your lunch break. And we're happy to be able to do this also for free. Next. So, yeah, now we can see. So Solidify is the company hosting the events. We are partners with Microsoft and GitHub, but we're a partnering consultant and product company focusing on development tools and services, helping customers and companies be successful building and delivering software. So we have a long tradition of working with Microsoft and other platform vendors like GitHub, and Octopus Deploy, and so on. We like to do events, and we like to engage with the community. So we've had a meetup for a couple of years now that we tied together with this roadshow. So it's a nice opportunity to get to meet with friends and colleagues and the community. Next, Magnus. And here's a little bit about the roadshow so far. So we've done a number of sessions on everything from code collaboration to GitHub Actions. Last we spoke and talked about code spaces as a way to modernize how you look at local development environments. And today we will look at how to integrate two great platforms and get even more out of that. In 2 weeks, we will look at migration paths and how you can migrate to GitHub. So hopefully you get excited from this session to start working more in GitHub, but you probably can't move everything from Azure DevOps at once. So there's plenty of good options to integrate. Then we'll talk about migration. And then we have other topics coming as well. If you have any ideas, just let us know. If you want to join the roadshow and participate speaking, that will be something we would be really happy to have you join. If you have ideas on topics, just post it on the chat or let us know. We keep doing this for a couple of months at least now in the fall. So with that, I would like to hand over to Magnus to start today's presentation on integration.
Great, thank you, Matthias. My name is Magnus. I've worked at Solidify for a long time, and I'm a VP at the company. My background is originally as a developer. I started working many years ago with Visual Basic and SourceSafe and that sort of stuff. Last couple of years, or a long time, when TFS came in 2005, I started to use the product, and I've been following it ever since. And I help a lot of our customers to work with Azure DevOps nowadays. A couple of years ago, I started to get interested with GitHub, and with the acquisition of GitHub from Microsoft, the product is even more interesting. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit of my experience with integrating with both products. I think it's going to be exciting. If you have any questions, you can please put them in the chat and we'll try to answer them as we can. I would also, sorry? Something? No. I would also like to know a little bit about you. So if you can just put an emoji in the chat, see what kind of people we have in the audience, that would be fun. So the bandit one if you're a developer, the ops one, the nerdy one if you're an ops, emo, project management, or other. Just we get a feeling of what kind of audience we have today. That would be great. So the things we're going to talk to you about today is, or what I'm here to show you actually, is the different integration parts from Azure DevOps to GitHub and back. So I'm going to tell you how to integrate to Azure Boards with code in GitHub. I'm going to tell you how to integrate Azure Pipelines with code in GitHub. I'm also going to tell you how you can synchronize GitHub Actions or GitHub issues with work items in Azure DevOps. I think there's a good use case for that. And I'm also going to show you a small project we did on one of our hackathons that links work items with GitHub Actions to Azure DevOps. So those are the things I'm going to show you today. So let's start with why would you even want to integrate? I mean, my opinion, Azure Boards, not Azure Boards, Azure DevOps and GitHub are both great tools that I love. And I think there are many use cases where you can actually get them to work really good together. And we have a couple of things here. I mean, many of you are old customers of ours and some are new and some we haven't even met. You have probably invested a lot in Azure DevOps during the years. And you might already be using GitHub for some of you open source or internal development. And GitHub, they have real cool tools like dependency scanning when it comes to secure your code. And also code and secret scanning. And with those tools in your code, you'll be able to easier shift left to find the problems you have in your code easier. I mean, as soon as you do a commit or a pull request, you can get feedback of bad things in your code. And that makes it, of course, easier to fix errors early in the beginning, and you won't get any bad things in your code already from the beginning. And as both are great tools, you can have the best of both worlds from the beginning. I am going to show you guys a couple of links, or I posted a couple of links in the chat. And so you can, if you want to, go in and take a look at what I'm going to show you while I'm showing it. So the first link that's further up in the chat is this one, our Azure DevOps project that I've created for you guys for this demo. It's an open project, so you can go in and look at it. You can't do stuff, hopefully. So we're going to work with the board here with the different things I'm going to show you. We also have a project in GitHub as well. So we have a Solidify demo here. The link is also in the chat in the beginning. And it's actually an old .NET framework project I'm going to show you. And all the interesting information, what I'm going to show you with all the links to what I'm showing you, how I did everything when I set up the demo, and other links, a couple of blogs I've done during the years with integration between GitHub and Azure DevOps, and more information about all our events and everything you can find here. So I hope that will be useful, and you can follow the event through there or in the demo during the day, or during this hour rather. So let's start with the first part, integrating Azure Boards with GitHub commits and pull requests. And the use case for this is that we at Solidify, we have moved or are moving more and more of our code to GitHub, but we still use Azure Boards for our major planning, and we want to get pull requests and commits connected to work items, just as we are used to. And how do you do that? I mean, we have our board here, looks exactly as usual, and I would like information about what I'm committing in GitHub here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to project settings here in my repository, and on the boards here we have GitHub connections. And here I have set up a connection to GitHub with the personal access token, so I can authenticate against GitHub and work against that repository in GitHub. And you can also set it up from the beginning and then add repositories or remove repositories. And there are a couple of different ways to connect. I mean, you can do, depending on if you're doing this on a server or a service, you can use personal access token, you can use an OAuth application, or you can use a username password to set up this authentication. It's really easy. You have to be a project administrator in Azure DevOps to do this. And you only need to do this once per project. That's the first thing. Next thing, as we have decided to switch to GitHub, we can go to overview here and we can actually turn repos off. I'll do that. By doing this, we're not deleting the repository anyway, or we're just removing the repos tabs to make it easier. So people won't go into the old repos and do stuff. You can probably still connect to them from directly from Git, but they're not shown in the interface here. So that's quite good. So let's go back to the dashboard here. No, not the dashboard, sorry, the boards. And we have the board here. So the first thing I want to show you is doing a simple commit in GitHub and make it turn up here. I'll drag this to done because it's done that. I'm going to show you how to do a pull request commit and connect it to this work item. So I'm just going to do nothing. I'm not going to do any fancy code. I'm just going to do a simple but quite cool thing. If you go down in your Kanban board here, we can have a status badge. And I will just copy the markdown code here in the status badge. And I will go here to my project. And let's say I want some live information from Azure DevOps directly in GitHub. I'll just paste this here, this markdown. And then I would like to commit this code and I would like to connect it to Azure Boards. And to connect it to the right work item, I need to use a specific syntax I'm going to show you and know the number of the work item. And in this case is 20591. So I'll just write this AB for Azure Boards and hashtag and then the work item number. And in this case, I'm going to commit this directly to master. Of course, you should have branching policies and branches, but I'm going to show you that soon. So let's just commit this. It's committed here. You can see that the integration against Azure Boards turn up in our markdown. It's quite cool. And we can, when we go back here, we can see that, okay, this little Git symbol turned up. We can expand that and we can see what we did. We have a connection here and we can just, if we want to, click here and come back directly to GitHub and see what we actually changed. So it's a cool integration, I think. So next is, I talked to you guys about branch policies. It's not really part of integration, but I think it's good to show anyway and important. So let's go to settings here and click branches. Here I can set up branch policies rules. So I will have a branch policy for master. The most important thing I think is to require a pull request. So no one can push code to master without anyone else reviewing it, like having a 4-eyes principle. There are other stuff here as well. We can also have status checks. I have a build that I've already set up against GitHub. So if I want that to be run as part of the pull request, I can do that. Just click it in. And this way, when we try to commit to master, we get to do a pull request and some checks are being run. I'm not going to do this because it messes up my demo a little bit. So I'm just going to skip the pull requests or the branch policies for now. So I'll just go back here to the code. And I will do another small change here in my code, my markdown. So I'll just do something small and stupid, add an S here, integrations. And I will this time do a branch to fix something and to pull request. And I will write something, changed markdown, and just propose a change. And then from this, I can create a pull request because I want to merge my really important change in my branch to master. And I can write this, start this here, and then I can just, write fixes and the Azure board number, and it would automatically move this to done in Azure Boards in the pull request. Let's see if I did it correctly. Just click merge. We can just add this here. See if I did this right. Yeah, cool. So by writing fixes and the connection to Azure Boards, it will automatically move my work item from approved or committed to done. I think that's a really good integration as well. And we can see here that we have a connection to a pull request and a connection to the earlier commit. So we have all history here in one place. And the same way, if we click here on the pull request here, we get all information of the difference of what we have done. So that was the second integration. So let's take a look at what's next. So we already did the demo. No, we're here. Next is I want to show you how to work with Azure Pipelines in GitHub. And the use case for this is the same as the last one. We have moved our code to GitHub, but we want to continue using Azure Pipelines for building. You can, of course, use GitHub Actions as well, but I mean, we have invested quite a lot in some of our build pipelines. So we want to continue using them for starters and then gradually go over to use GitHub Actions. So here we're back to the board. Just drag this to approved, and let's go down to pipelines. I have a couple of pipelines. They're not actually run because this is a demo environment. So I have this Azure repos build, and I will edit it. I can see my Azure repos pipeline here, but this code has actually been moved to GitHub. So I can go in and quite strange, I can click triggers. I can probably go in there another way, but if I click here, I get another part of the interface here, not just a YAML. And I can go here, click on YAML, and then I can select that I want to use this connect to GitHub instead. And then I can just either browse, my code, or just paste the repository I want to work with for GitHub, and I can select the branch I want to build to here. And it's actually using a service connection. So if you don't have a service connection from the beginning, you can set it up and authenticate in different ways here as well. I'm not going to change its settings. I'm just going to continue and show you how to create a new pipeline against GitHub from scratch. So we'll just leave this. If I want to create a new pipeline, I do exactly as I do when I do it against Azure repos. And I get a couple of different options here. I mean, nowadays, the ordinary way is to create your builds with YAML, and that's having your build definition as code. If I want to use the classic editor instead, I can just click use the classic editor. And I can here select different options of where I have my code. So it's not harder than just selecting GitHub or GitHub Enterprise or wherever you have your code. I'll just go back here and select GitHub YAML. And then I have to find my repository. Actually, it's not owned by me, it's owned by my organization, and I can browse here or just select it. So I selected my repository in GitHub here, and here I get a couple of suggestions of what kind of code I have. And I know this is an old .NET Framework application, so I'll just select this template, and it creates the YAML for me. And some of you might be new to YAML, and I can tell you one thing: it's really important with the spaces to get the syntax right. But you can of course get help here as well. I mean, if we click the Show Assistant here, we can get all the stuff of tasks here that we can select and just fill with parameters and fill in. And there's also IntelliSense help if you need it as well. So this build actually uses Microsoft's hosted build server with Windows latest. It uses the NuGet installer task, does NuGet commands, or NuGet restore, sorry, and does the build, and then some testing. So we can actually save and run this. Demo build. And of course, the same way as we commit our code, we can commit this is code. So you can decide if you want to commit it directly to master. And if we would have a branch policy here, it would require us to do a pull request, or we can just create a new branch, but I'll just commit this to master. So it's creating the pipeline and running it. So it's running in the background, but while we do that, we can take a look of an existing build I've done. Let's click it here. And we can see the earlier events I've done, or the last time that I ran the job. And it looks, of course, exactly as it would when you would be having your code in Azure DevOps. And you can go and take a look at all parts of the build and take a look at the logs as well. So next thing I'm going to do, I like those badges things, and I want to have some more badges. So I am going to get a status badge from here and copy that. Then I'm going to go back here to my Git code. And add the other badge here. That way we will have integration showing both what's happening in Azure Boards and what is happening in Azure Pipelines. Let's do a change here, and I'll add this below. We'll build status here as well. And then when we do the commit here, I'll just do the same thing as I did with the previous work item. Fixes Azure Boards, but another work item, and we'll commit this to master. There, and now see we have the Azure Pipelines here, that this specific pipeline succeeded. And if we go back to boards here, we can see that this work item is moved to done as well, and we can see a link to the change as well. I think this is a really useful integration as well. Do we have any questions so far?
No.
No. Crystal clear, maybe?
In a sense, I mean, this nicely shows that we get the same type of integration between the capabilities like we have internally in Azure DevOps. So if we're used to do something similar in DevOps today, we don't lose any of that when using the two products.
Yeah. One question I do have is there an easy way to find all these tricks? The fact that you type a prefix fixes and then the PBI number. Yeah. So it's great to see it, but yeah. I think I will not be using it for a month or so. I probably forget, except for reviewing this recording. Is there an easy way to find all of these things?
Yeah, if you check details here in my Git repository, I've added the links to all the things I'm showing you. You can just So the first ones are going to the Microsoft and GitHub documentation, and the last one are going to the GitHub Marketplace stuff I'm going to show you soon. So just keep the link to this presentation in GitHub,
Perfect.
and you're going to be able to access everything.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Now we had a question from Thomas, who just wanted a clarification on, I think, what we see on the card. We have a small charm there that says something about GitHub. Is that the commit, or to the YAML file, or to the README file you changed?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, if that's
No,
not
but,
what you're asking for.
That's what I asked.
It's the commit.
Yeah.
So regardless if it's the YAML file for the build, I mean, in this case, create a build based on GitHub. You mean if that is? Yeah, I did. I didn't actually, when I created the YAML, I didn't actually connect that to a work item. So this commit is connected to the build status.
Okay, so the YAML file is still preserved in a repo somewhere.
Yeah, it's the same repo, but I didn't have the opportunity to connect it to work item when I committed it. But the next time I will do a change, it will be in the code. And of course, I'm going to show you where in the code it is. So it's here. This was the Azure Pipelines 2 I created 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
So when I change this and commit it next time and connect it to work item, you will see it the same way.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So let's go to other interesting issues when it comes to integration. So we have some automations we'd like to show you. And I'll just pick up my notes here. So GitHub Actions is the equivalent of Azure Pipelines, but they're not really all the way yet, but it's becoming really good. But GitHub Actions can be used to other stuff than just CI/CD. It can be used to all kinds of automation. It's really powerful. So I'm going to show you 2 automations that we have used in this project. One is sync GitHub issues to Azure DevOps Work Items, and the other one is add Azure DevOps Work Items links to pull requests. And the use case for the first one, the GitHub issue to Azure DevOps synchronization, is that we have open source projects at Solidify. So we have our code open and we have people writing issues, but we have our bigger planning. As we have several products we're working with, we have those in Azure Boards. So when someone gives us an issue, we have a problem or suggestion, we want to get that in our Kanban board. So let's go to the next picture. Sorry, actually to the demo. And then we have this GitHub action. It's done by Dan Hellem, formerly Microsoft. And it's an action that's out on GitHub Marketplace, so anyone can use it. And it's not hard. I mean, there's some text here, and there's a sample here with their action code. And you can see that it triggers on issues. So if they're open, edited, deleted, closed, reopened, labeled, unlabeled, or assigned, it does something. And here it runs on Ubuntu server, doesn't really matter, and uses this action he has created with a couple of parameters. So we have some secrets here, and that's tokens for GitHub and Azure DevOps. We have organizational name, project name, work item, and such. So I'm going to show you what I did to get this working and how it works. There's a folder here, GitHub Workflows, and that is created for you automatically the first time you do an action. Let's go in here. I have 2 different actions here. And this is actually where your CI/CDs will turn up if you did that kind of automation. But I created one called sync issues to Azure DevOps YAML. And you can see it's exactly like the sample here, but I replaced his parameters with my information. So we have the organization, Solidify Demo, we have a project, we have our work item type, it's a product backlog item, and we have a state, new. And we also have 2 secrets here, and those are preserved here under settings. On secrets. That's why it's encrypted the entire way, so we can't find out what it was or what it is. And with this action, you can actually do bi-directional sync. I've selected only to get issues from GitHub to Azure DevOps, not the other way back. But you can of course do both here. So let's do something here. Let's say that I am an open source user of our product and I want to tell us something. So let's just create a new issue. Sync. And just hello world. Just submit the issue. Finished. And if we click actions here, we can see what that the action is being run here. We have demo issue for sync is queued. And we can see here what is happening. It's running the actual tool. It's successfully updated, created, and the job is complete. And of course, you can turn on verbose logging as well if you want more information. So let's go back here and see. There we have it. So we can open it. And we can see it's a text I added, but added the GitHub issue sync 9. And we have the description. And of course, you can have pictures and link and all sorts of other stuff as well. And I think that's really useful. We also have a link here. And that is the link directly to the issue. So I think this is really cool. And easy to use as well. So next is another action that we actually created by ourselves. So I put it here. This is the Azure DevOps Work Item linker. We have had a hackathon a couple of weeks ago at Solidify, and we thought of stuff that could help us do our work easier and also have a bit fun at the same time, because most of us haven't tried GitHub Actions before. So we spent a few hours. Actually, this work item linker was created in just 5 hours, and I think that's really cool of the team. And the use case for this is we want to link the Azure Boards Work Item to a pull request, and we don't want to jump back and forwards from Azure DevOps to GitHub. We just want to link inside the pull request to be able to click on. So it's an easy use case. And you see it here, and it's similar to the other action we're showing you guys. We have this will happen if we have a pull request and on a specific branch, and we have specific parameters that we can fill. So let's take a look at that and go back here to code and click GitHub Workflows. And here we have the work item linker. Just a few rows of code. We include this linker, and we have the parameters, Solidify demo and the project name. And this time we use a built-in GitHub token to be able to do things in the pull request. So I'm actually going to do a small change here and show you guys how it works. Let's do something simple. Take away the S here. And we want to connect to the branch. Let's say using work here. And propose a change. And then from here, let's create the pull request. And you can see here that is using the work item linker. And let's see if we need to refresh here. Yeah, oh, it's running it here, and it's also doing some builds here, and that's why it takes some time. Matthias, you were a bit involved in publishing at the marketplace. Was it a hard thing to do while we wait?
Surprisingly, no, or I don't know if it's surprising. Maybe that's what you should expect. But if the right files are contained in the repository, I don't know if you're in a different one, then GitHub will detect that this is an action, and you can essentially just select when you create a new release for the repository, you can select that this is an action that I would like to have made available on the marketplace. So then you fill out some metadata and then it gets published. So it's super easy.
So I seem to having a slight problem here. Yeah, it should have looked like it's probably doing some other checks, so that's why it's taking some time. But probably. The way it would have looked is like this: that the GitHub action bot added the work item link here, so you can just click here and open. Coming back to the backlog here, and then go the other way back. So it's a really simple thing, but it solves a problem for us and makes our work easier.
Yeah, indeed. And we'll probably have a session on more details on action authoring. And we were thinking about some of the lessons learned we have had so far from creating these types of extensions, like how do you debug something running on a service, some tips and tricks for that. And then we can look more into the publishing side of this as well, I think.
Yeah. One last thing in the demo, we have insights here. I don't know if you guys have looked at it before. If we go in and click on traffic here, we can see how much visitors we have on our pages. So not too many today, but you might go in afterwards. And the amount of commits and clones and everything. So this could be interesting if you have an open source project to see how much your different pages attracts attention. So let's go back to the last few slides.
May I throw in a question?
Of course, Christian.
When you were showing the issues, so the issue syncer to Azure DevOps, is there an option to can I choose the work item type in Azure Demo in Azure DevOps? So if I would have a custom work item type for issues coming from GitHub?
Yeah, I'll show you that. So if you go back to the code here, it goes to the workflow and to the sync issues here. Here we can see in the bottom here, you can say what kind of Azure DevOps work item work item it will create. So in this case, it's the product backlog item, but if you have a custom one, you can, of course, put it there as well.
Perfect, thanks.
You're welcome. So let's go to the last few slides. So how could you get started? If you're new to this and want to get started with what I've shown you, you can do like we have done at Solidify. So we start by moving our repositories from GitHub. We don't move all at the same time. We take the ones that we feel important at the moment, the ones that we're working with, the other ones that are old and we don't work with anymore, they can just stay there. We start by using this code security features. And we also start by setting up branch policies, and maybe we use other stuff as SonarQube and other tools to make our quality of our code better. We have so far kept our builds, boards, and test plans in Azure DevOps, but are gradually starting to shift over to use GitHub Actions for some builds and deploys. I mean, GitHub Actions is great, but some of the more complex releases we have not been able to do yet, but I know there's coming soon be feature parity between both products. And I like GitHub Actions, and it's so similar to the YAML way of doing things in Azure DevOps as well. So, last slide here. Do you want to take that, Matthias?
Yeah, sure. So if you have any questions or comments from the presentation, just feel free to unmute or type in the chat. think the ones we got so far we've answered.
I have a question regarding to the last slide. Why should you do this? I guess you have Azure DevOps. What's the major benefit in moving to GitHub? Is it just for open source kind of projects, or is there a really business reason to do it that you can elaborate a bit on?
Yeah, I can try. I know that there's going to be some good things coming for people with Visual Studio licenses, so the cost will not be that high. That will probably come in a few days. That's one thing, so there won't be a big cost doing this. The other thing is that Microsoft has 2 similar products now, and they will continue supporting both for years to come. But as I feel, it's like the focus is shifting a little bit more on GitHub. So some of the new functionality, like code security stuff and other things, might just come on GitHub. But I mean, Azure DevOps will be also developed over time, but maybe not. It will not have the same focus as GitHub. That's the feeling I have, at least. Was that an okay question, Thomas? Answer, Thomas?
Oh yes, we all have different challenges for authorities and so on. They can't go to public internet with some of the stuff, so they're stuck with on-site software, and then then we need to kind of stick with Azure DevOps on premise.
Yeah, but you have GitHub on premise as well. You have GitHub Server.
Okay.
So you can have both in your own data center and work together anyway.
Okay.
So I mean, both Azure DevOps and GitHub have products for exclusively cloud and exclusively server. And they're handled by the same licenses as well, so the cost is no different.
So you have a gut feeling that GitHub will replace Azure DevOps in a distant future?
Maybe in a far distant future, and I know Microsoft and GitHub are committed that they will continue supporting both platforms, but I have a gut feeling that they will put more money in GitHub.
Yeah.
So any other questions or topics or something?
Probably touch more on use cases for one versus the other when we talk about migrations.
Yeah.
Certainly at this point, there's more capabilities in Azure DevOps as a platform than in Git, but who knows what will be coming. There are some things like we see here that are in both, like code, pipelines, artifacts. So depending on your deployment and use cases, you will most likely end up having both, and then the integration tricks that we talked about today can be good ways to deal with that. So yeah, I guess at this point there's no binary simple answer for the future roadmap, other than the two capable products, each strong on their own. We'll probably see a demand in the organizations for having support for both, and then we can integrate them in a nice way.
I see that Madis wrote in the chat that the reason my linker didn't work was I forgot to add the Azure Boards hashtag number in the commit, so that was stupid of me. If I'd done that, it doesn't know what to link to if I don't write the Azure Boards hashtag link number. Thanks, Madis. So do you guys have any other questions connected to Azure DevOps or GitHub, not mainly connected to integration? We can have a chat about it.
Or else we'll be back in 2 weeks with more talks on migration. And feel free to channel any questions or ideas and suggestions for coming talks or thoughts in general to us, and we'll be sure to pick it up. There'll be more information on the meetup page and on, of course, our web, and this recording will be shared on the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, and I will post the link in the chat here as well. Thanks, Robin. Then I hope all of you guys have a really nice Friday afternoon and a nice weekend, and I hope to see you here in 2 weeks. And as Matthias said, if you need help with doing this kind of stuff or need inspiration or something, feel free to contact us.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.